sign here? I'm Mike Ehrmantraut, security consultant for Madrigal Electromotive. Now, it's come to my attention that many of you are dangerously ignorant of fundamental security procedure. You're like a time bomb, ticking away, and I have no intention of being around for the boom. So to avoid that unfortunate scenario, for the next 10 weeks, I'll be running this refresher course. Our first topic is employee accountability. Security is a team effort, and it's on each and every one of you to do your part. Let me demonstrate in a way that you'll understand. Let's say I'm a bad guy trying to access your facility. I wait for someone who isn't paying attention and enter when they do. This is called piggybacking. And if this employee had been paying attention, she could have prevented it. Now, I'm in the building. How do I gain access to secured floors and rooms? I give some official-sounding excuse. I'm doing routine building maintenance, or I'm surveying the property for the gas company. It's up to each and every one of you to verify any story you're given. Just don't take my word for it. Finally, if you see anyone wandering around without an ID badge or with a badge that is not their own, stop them. And you've just been robbed. There are several opportunities for someone to stop me. One weak link is everyone's failure. So be smart. Hold yourselves accountable, or face the consequences. That's it for today. Tune in next week when we'll be talking about hiring practices. Before we begin today's lesson, one of your Madrigal supervisors has requested that I read the following disclaimer. The views expressed in these training videos are in no way to be taken as threats of physical violence.
Mike.
What? Hey, you know, Lydia, you don't like my tone. You can come here and read it yourself. Non-compliance with the procedures set forth herein will not result in personal physical jeopardy. Any implication to the contrary is strictly unintentional. Today's lesson is about hiring practices. If you're going to add someone new to the team, that person has got to be properly vetted. It doesn't take that much. Usually you can get the job done with a little bit of digging. So there's no excuse not to do your homework. Do I got to explain that to you in a cartoon? Yeah, guess I do. First things first, you got to meet face to face. I can't tell you how many cues you're going to pick up on that you won't get from a background check. If the guy or gal is solid, you'll know it. Trust your gut. That being said, always check their references. It's called due diligence, folks. Some red flags to look out for. Relatives and associates with sketchy backgrounds or criminal records. And that's all for today. Join me next week to talk about perimeter security. We're going to get into perimeter security today. Basic nuts and bolts, safety is always going to be your first and most effective form of defense. Now, I'm not saying you need to be Fort Knox. Most criminals are pretty lazy. If they see a well-secured building, they're not going to put on their black leotards and scale the walls unless they're really motivated. Nevertheless, if you've got something valuable you want to protect, you lock it up. Whether it's company secrets or that priceless family heirloom that meant so much to your grandma, you keep it safe. Simple as that. First things first, are there any barriers to your property? If not, any old criminal can just waltz in. And believe me, they will. Your next level of protection is going to be your cameras. You need to make sure you got complete coverage. Bad guys can make use of even the smallest of blind spots. Technology is fine and good, but any bad guy with an ounce of initiative can take out a power grid. At the end of the day, there's no substitution for good old-fashioned human observation. And remember, when you're on the job, always keep your eyes and ears open. Be smart, stay safe. It's not rocket science. And that's it. See you next week when we'll be reviewing social intelligence. I've been asked to begin today's lesson with an amended disclaimer. Apparently, the previous one wasn't good enough. If you or your coworkers are made to feel uncomfortable by any of the scenarios posed in these training videos, you feel free to speak to your supervisor or human resources representative. We at Madrigal Electromotive are dedicated to ensuring not only your physical safety, but also your emotional well-being. Are you kidding me? Our lesson of the day is don't believe everything you hear. I'm talking about social intelligence or being able to tell when someone is lying to you. It's one of the most important skills in your security arsenal. Now, everybody's got to tell. And today I'm going to show you what to look for. This executive is telling us that she wants to reroute an important shipment to save on fuel. It's about efficiency. Come on, Lydia. We all know that's bullshit. See, Lydia actually wants to send her trains through McKinley County because of a certain stretch of land with very bad cell reception. What's she trying to hide? That's not our concern. What matters is how we know she's up to no good. First, her eyes. See how she double blinks every time she says something that she wants you to believe? The shorter routes make room for an additional 2.7 more runs per week. Pay attention to what Lydia is saying. Notice how frequently she repeats the same set of numbers. 2 trucks and 7 crew members, 2.7 runs. Could it be that she's working to keep her story straight? Finally, watch what happens when I question her logic. People with nothing to hide usually don't mind explaining why they're right and you're wrong. And that's how you know when you're looking at a liar. It's not that hard, is it? I'll see you next week when we'll be talking about information security. Today we'll be talking about information security. As a Madrigal employee, you're often handling a lot of classified...
Mike?
Lydia, give me a break. I will get to it. Whether you're reading a classified memo or shipping sensitive material, any company information in your possession is your responsibility. Use discretion when handling or discussing sensitive material. You never know who could be listening. Opt for tamper-evident packaging when sending documents in the mail. Request hand delivery when you can. Or if it's really important, deliver the package yourself. It's the only way to make sure important documents get where they need to go. I will now read the following very important memo from the Madrigal executive team. Here at Madrigal, blah, 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 not in any danger, blah, 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 nobody's spying on you. Allow me to demonstrate the most important aspect of information security: proper document disposal. That's it for today. See you next time when we'll be going over professionalism. As we go through this training course, it's important to remember that not everyone is perfect. Sometimes people behave in ways that disappoint you. When that happens, it's on all of us to be professionals. Admit we're wrong, face the consequences. It's corporate policy here at Madrigal, and it's a philosophy I stand by. But I also believe people can learn from their mistakes. And there are certain measures that can be taken to ensure they never make the same mistake twice. It appears these employees are intimidating a customer. As their boss, what do? First things first, you gotta find out what happened. Use the strategies we went over in our discussion on social intelligence to determine whether the story they're getting is an honest one. Thankfully, in this case, nobody was hurt. And since this was an incident without any real repercussions, a stern warning will do the trick. Here's another scenario to look out for. Say this employee accidentally mislabeled a confidential shipment. That's a real problem. And even if it was an honest mistake, it requires some damage control. I've found that having employees clean up their own messes is often an effective deterrent. Let's take a look at one more situation. Everyone sounds like Meryl Streep when they're trying to talk their way out of trouble. This employee was caught intentionally leaking company secrets. Regardless of how sorry she is, it was a serious breach of trust, and so she will be let go. No half measures this time. And remember to retrieve ID badges and keys from all terminated employees before they leave. And if you're ever uncertain about what kind of punishment is appropriate, come find me. My door is always open. See you next week, where we'll be talking about workplace safety. Security and safety go hand in hand. If you stay safe, you stay secure. It's that simple. I'm not going to tell you that your cushy corporate job will put you in danger of anything worse than a paper cut. But it's a scary world out there. Following basic safety protocol will allow you to protect yourself and the company's assets in the event of things get a little more exciting. Now, I have been warned that my advice may offend some of your delicate sensibilities. Anyone who would prefer to watch a polite video about choosing a complex email password, here's a special lesson, just for you. You ready? Step 1, turn this video off. For the rest of you, here's another cartoon. All workers need to be properly outfitted. Hard hats are required anytime you're near heavy equipment. Wear gloves whenever you're on the job, and use a weight belt if you're going to be lifting heavy objects. Seriously, you'll thank me for it when you're my age. Always keep your eyes and ears open. If someone's got a warning for you, you want to be able to hear it before it's too late. When you're in the vicinity of working trucks, you have to take extra precautions. Always be aware of the exits and locks. Don't allow yourself to be put in a compromised position. If you take someone away from their work to rescue you, I promise they won't be happy about it. And if that distraction leads to a security breach, well, you might just prefer to stay in that freezer. And that about covers it for today. See you next week when we'll be discussing confidentiality. I'm going to start my lesson now. Is that all right with you, Lydia? Or am I going to have a conversation with our mutual associate? Today's topic is confidentiality, or as I like to call it, keeping your damn mouth shut. As Madrigal employees, you've all signed non-disclosure agreements that prevent you from communicating company business to outsiders. I cannot stress how important it is to uphold your NDA. Let me demonstrate. Sometimes coworkers are just trying to be friendly when they ask you questions about your work. And while they may be covered under NDAs of their own, that doesn't give you license to start blabbing company secrets around the water cooler. In these situations, I find that nonverbal communication can be very effective. What are you working on? Where is that barrel going? Who was that? Even when you're off the clock, you gotta watch what you say. Even when you think there's no possible danger, you gotta be careful. If you talk, we'll know about it, and then you'll have to answer to me. That's it for this week. Join me next time when we'll be talking about morale. Today, we'll be discussing morale, and no, I'm not talking about your happiness. I'm talking about keeping whatever crap you got going on at home out of the workplace. When you're preoccupied by family issues or squabbles with colleagues, it can be difficult to focus on your actual job. And when your mind is elsewhere, you make mistakes, which makes me unhappy. So let's get to it. This is Paul. Paul's clearly going through some stuff. Marriage trouble, that's rough, buddy. But the real problem here is that Paul is distracted, which can be easily exploited by someone wishing to do the company harm. Remember, you are still responsible for any security breaches that occur on your watch regardless of your emotional state at the time. Keeping your head in the game means keeping your head clear. People say all sorts of things under the influence. If you choose to drink, know that you'll be held accountable. Finally, if you're a manager and one of your employees is struggling, it's important that you recognize the situation early so that you can do something about it before it's too late. A few warning signs to look out for: trembling hands, bloodshot eyes. Even clothing choices can be revealing. There's no shame in expressing your emotions. Just express them on your own time. That's it for today. Join me next week for our final lesson on the chain of command. Congratulations. You're almost at the finish line. For this last lesson, I'll be talking about chain of command. As an employee at a company as large as Madrigal, you're not going to know everything that's going on. This is a business with a lot of moving parts. When you're told to do something, you're expected to do it. If you got questions, ask them. But know that there's a time and a place. Let me illustrate. You got the big bosses up at the top. These are the people you got to listen to. If they say jump, you say how high. And here's you. All the people in between are your superiors. And if any of them ask you to do something, you do it. No questions asked. Let's say I tell you to drop off a package. It's safe to assume that this package is necessary for another operation, which in turn is part of an even bigger operation. As you see, each step, no matter how small, plays a role in the international operations of Madrigal Electromotive. But what happens when you're assigned a task that troubles you? These employees have a concern about their marching orders. As a manager, it's important to cultivate an environment in which employees know their opinions will be heard and valued. Even if nothing changes, employees will understand that they're contributing to a bigger picture, a greater good. Don't like how the boss does business? Work somewhere else. But if you're thinking about making a change, bear in mind that there's always going to be a chain of command. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed these cartoons. Because the fun stops now. It's a dangerous world out there. But if you put these lessons into practice, you just might be okay. If you have any other questions, Lydia can answer them. You know how they say it's been a pleasure? Well, it hasn't.